And now into other stories. Tata Motors is a well-known brand with a history in products that include passenger vehicles, trucks, vans, construction equipment and military vehicles. In South Africa, Tata introduced well-known automobile brands Indica, Vista and Manza. NN7 business editor Clive Ramatibela-Smith had a chat with Johnny Oommen, the head international business passenger cars at Tata Motors. Take a listen to this.
So, welcome to South Africa.
Thank you for having us, Clive.
You know, the first thing that I can think of is Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? And I remember the story very well, which is fantastic, about India. How do you find South Africa?
I think it's, as I always mention, it's a very interesting country.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those countries where, despite the challenges that we are all aware of, I think there's always a bright spark. There's always something encouraging about the future. And I think the more I see this market, I think I see a lot of hope coming our way.
That's brilliant. That's good to hear. You know, when we talk about Tata, you know, we've got in South Africa a Zulu term, Tata. So it was very easy for South Africans to familiarize themselves with your car brand, which is Tata. I just want to find out from you, if you can share with our viewers, what the history of this wonderful brand is in India and across the world.
Well, Tata really has a history of nation building. It is a very diversified conglomerate with business interests virtually stretching from salt to software. So it's fairly common in India to see that the brand is part of everyone's life. Wow. So whether it is the cup of tea you have in the morning, which could be a Tata product, to the salt you have in your food, to the soap you bathe with, to the car you drive, to the clothes you wear, to the software you use, to the power that comes into your house, to chemicals. I mean, it is really a company that has touched people's lives. And as an organization, I think one of the key objectives that the group stands for is really building quality of life for people across the world. So really enhancing the way people live lives. And I think under that ambit, several of our companies actually have their own set of products and services which go towards fulfilling that. As an example, Tata Motors, our mission is to enhance quality of life by innovating mobility solutions. So that's what we've embarked on very recently. We keep looking at our mission and vision, and we have to redefine ourselves, keeping in touch and in pace with the times. So what we are really taken on is the challenge of innovating mobility solutions to enhance quality of life.
Wow. It's interesting to listen to you speak about how it influences life in a way. And you look at the global scope of the automobile industry, and there's been a lot of challenges. Obviously, you'll be aware. I had a chat with you about the airbag company, which had a little bit of problems. And there's also challenges about carbon emissions, for example. How have you continued to strike the balance between becoming a consumer-based vehicle and also meeting the high standards that are required on a global scale to be competitive?
Well, I think as a company, as I said right now, we create products that genuinely impact the world around us. If you look at Tata Motors, the passenger vehicle business has a fairly recent history. We're about 20 years old. The commercial vehicles business is a bit older, over 50 years. However, every time we've launched products, they have been created to ensure that the end user really finds a lot of value, a lot of quality in what he drives or what he uses. Coming to your question on the challenges of whether it's emissions, whether it is the materials we use, the supplier base, Tata, thanks to the scale that we enjoy in our India market, and of course we're present in several countries across the globe, several regions, not just Africa, but the Middle East, Southeast Asia, South Asia, Russia, Ukraine, CIS, Latin America. So we really use our network with the suppliers that we interact with to make sure that we are always ahead of the curve, not just in terms of procurement of materials, but also to make sure that new technologies is something that we are keeping pace with constantly. So even as we are speaking, there is work happening on alternative technologies. The kind of vehicles that will define our future. So there is a lot of work happening on those, and clearly when it comes to standards such as safety, emissions, there is no question of any compromise. So we really believe in adhering to and also staying ahead of what a market typically asks for.
You know, when you're talking and I'm listening to this global brand, I'm starting to think to myself, is South Africa in your plans for the future? So I want to find out from you, what are the plans for Tata for South Africa, and perhaps maybe even the Southern African region as a whole?
Sure. You know, South Africa is a country that we entered in 1994 through a company called Tata Africa Holdings, which is really an investment arm of the Tata Group for the region. So it's been well over 20 years, and I think a lot of what we have done and what we have learned are actually based on what the government of South Africa intends by way of the long-term future of the South African people. Just to give you an example, we have in 2007 started Tata Motors South Africa, which is an assembly plant in Roslyn, which puts together trucks that are appropriate for the South African market. Tata Africa Holdings actually has subsidiaries not just in South Africa, but at least 10 countries in the African region, such as Zambia, Zimbabwe, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Senegal, and so on. So from a region perspective, clearly it is a region that is right up there on our map, because we believe that it is a market that holds a very bright future. In fact, a lot of our own growth as a Tata passenger vehicle brand and a commercial vehicle brand has come from this region. South Africa in particular is a top market for us when it comes to vehicle exports. It is a fairly sizable market. The couple of blips in the past few months notwithstanding, I think the market is kind of steadying itself, but we see a lot of inherent potential. If we look especially at the entry-level segments, I think a lot of people in South Africa are actually increasing their purchases of cars in that segment. And as the Tata brand, which has always stood for vehicles across the board, but specializing in entry-level vehicles, we believe that there is a lot of potential for us in the Africa market.
That is quite profound. And obviously you have your range of vehicles, which South Africans have found to be exciting for them. Personally, I know the Indica, for example, which is everyone's favorite, depending on what you have. I remember a friend of mine actually had even screens inside the vehicle. You've been able to get into the South Africans' mind and able to create a vehicle that stands true to the test of the entry-level market, and people are able to react to that, and obviously you've seen the growth in that. What exciting prospects can they now look forward to as you obviously grow further and extend and expand on your South African plans?
You're absolutely right, Clive. I think over the years we've put in the market a total of something like 80,000 vehicles on the road, at least half of which are passenger vehicles in South Africa over the years. So there are a lot of Tata cars on the road. However, when we say entry-level vehicles, I think we must note that the definition of entry-level itself is changing. So while in the past one could have been content with, as a customer, fairly basic vehicles, today we have seen the segment evolve, and we're actually looking at really upping the equipment level, features and content in our cars quite substantially, so that what the entry-level customer gets is a lot more bang for the buck. It's tremendously packed with value. So we are looking at today cars that are coming in from our side into the market that are really attempting to redefine the concept of entry level or concept of value for the first time car buyer, or for an A segment or an AB segment buyer. So our plans for South Africa in particular essentially include bringing in an array of vehicles that are attractive, not necessarily because of the price, but far more because of the content that they offer. So if you look at our most recent launch, which is the Tata Bolt, it is clearly way ahead of the segment in terms of the equipment level, in terms of the features that come in as standard, whether it is infotainment, whether it is multi-drive, whether it is the turbo engine. There is a lot more in the car that the entry-level car buyer would only have dreamt of otherwise. So we really are looking at making the entry-level buyer's dreams come true. So it's not that he just wants a cheap car or an affordable car. What we are trying to make is a car that's packed with all the stuff that you could have wanted and more.
Last note. If you can give me 3 words, and you can explain on them, that describes the brand to not just South Africans, because we have a special relationship with India in South Africa. So what would be the 3 words that you would explain the brand, its continuity in South Africa, and its investment objectives for this country?
First and foremost on our map right now is innovation. We really would like to bring in innovation, not just in terms of product, but even in terms of customer experience, whether it is sales or service. The second would be really value. So I know it's an often misinterpreted word, and it's very easy to confuse the notion of value. And really what we are talking about is we are looking to bring in at every segment and at every point in the customer's journey a Tata that he could live with. So a Tata that he could drive at every stage of his life. And the third key word is a word that I would say really emanates, or is part of our DNA, it emanates from the parent, is trust. It is something that we have built our businesses on. It is not for nothing today that the Tata Group is well over $100 billion. And Tata Motors is, well, as of last year, a $42 billion company. But it's not about revenues, it's really about earning the trust of customers no matter where we operate.